My name's GaNun. I am an inclusive dance teacher. Professionally, I'm a teacher with the ballet, and then I do workshops with different inclusive dance companies. I take from all those different things that I've learned and then come up with my own choreography.
Close to death, I looked it right in the jaws.
I sing and play accordion in another band called Lost Walks. It's a wolf benefit project, so all the money that comes in from the project goes to wolf organizations or sanctuaries. Andy and I wrote this record, and then we kind of pulled together our dream team of a band. So we have 7 members in the band, and then we asked some local artists to get involved in it, and they created artwork that kind of goes along with every single song. It's a linear story, so we wanted another way for the audience to experience what the story is. It's a deep, dark thing that happens in the story. It's kind of a sad story. There is a bit of a moral, which is how wolves are treated today, hoping that people through music can educate themselves a little bit more about what's happening with wolves right now. What's fun about that project is I've been able to kind of treat it as my baby. So we started with the music, added the band, added the artwork, and now we're working on getting dancers involved. So we have rehearsals a few times a week where we're creating movement and setting movement in order for the dancers to perform with the band live.
Spent and dead, frozen red, I'm all blood.
Growing up, I had a lot of injuries, and I thought that was just what dancers had. And then when I was 24, I had a hip injury that kind of took me out of dance for about a year or two. And that started me on this path of trying to find out why I was able to get injured more than most people. Like 3 years later, after having some other issues, I was diagnosed with something called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's a connective tissue disorder. My muscles weren't strong enough anymore to kind of hold my body together. My joints then were kind of getting wacky because of it. So I got that diagnosis, and then I started realizing like I may have some limitations with dancing. I can't just kind of throw my body everywhere the way I used to. When I started to kind of accept that a little bit is when I had some heart issues. It's a totally separate thing. I was just lucky enough to have 2 different diagnoses that were a little extreme. Last year, I had 1 heart procedure. It wasn't a very intense procedure. It was something where they didn't have to open my chest for, but I had some issues after that. I had a clot that formed in my heart, and it caused these kind of mini strokes. So I would lose my vision, I would get these awful headaches, I would have odd body things like I would lose the use of my hand for a little bit, or I would become confused and I didn't know why. So it turns out for about a year I was having these mini strokes, and then this summer I had a major enough stroke that it showed up on some scans in the hospital. 2 months later, I ended up having open heart surgery. So I've been working for years and trying to learn more about doing inclusive dance work for other people. And then it turned out that I actually needed to kind of own that a little bit too and be like, oh yeah, I need this as well. And I used to think about that in the way of like, well, when I'm in my 80s, maybe I'll have to make some adjustments to my dancing. You know, that's what I used to think. And now I'm in my 30s, I'm 32, and I'm realizing that anybody at any time could kind of have issues like this. And I think it might make me a better teacher, like for my students who have either mobility challenges or different abilities that I wasn't very empathetic to before. I wanted to be, but now I can like really feel what that feels like. Most of the students that I teach right now are young people with Down syndrome. Some of my students, when they were very young, had open heart surgery. A lot of my students have the same incision scar that I will have now. So I think in a way it's gonna just give me another thing that I can kind of be on their level with. I wanted to just be kind of creating dances and movement and kind of giving that option to folks with disabilities because they sometimes aren't offered for everybody. Dance can feel a little bit exclusive sometimes. This is what people think. You have to have a certain body, you have to have a certain training, you have to have a certain amount of money in order to access dance. And I kind of wanted to be a part of this culture that I was seeing other people do where it's more inclusive, so anybody can join in no matter what your abilities are and just experience dance the way that I was lucky enough to when I was growing up.